saved by love. It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by love. It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by the bell.
Podcast. Today I've got some very special guests with me. I've three of our students that have been accepted in service academies, which to me is a super exciting, fun thing. So maybe fun's not the right term, right? It's super.
I think it'll be fun.
Okay, I'd say prestigious for one, but also just the amount of work and reward that you guys are going to see in the next 4 to 5 years is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and introduce all three of you, and then we'll start talking about some of this stuff. So, Antonio, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Antonio Torre, and I will be attending the United States Military Academy at West Point.
Awesome.
My name's Hannah Lee, and I'm going to be attending the United States Air Force Academy.
Cool.
Hello, my name is David Peebles, and I will also be attending the Air Force Academy.
Nice. Well, my first question is for you two. Do you guys anticipate, have they talked to you about, will you guys see each other a lot when you're there? I mean, if you're someone that doesn't know a lot about military academies, you guys think you'll be in the same, groups or anything like that? Have they talked to you about that at all?
Most likely we won't see each other for the most part,
Oh, okay.
maybe in passing every once in a while, but I think we're going to be in separate groups, separate clubs, different
Right,
classes
yeah.
for the most part.
For the most part.
Okay,
Not a
cool.
ton.
All right. Well, so first question I have is someone that doesn't know a ton about this is talk to me about the process of getting in. What were some things that concerned you? What are some things that were a little tougher than maybe a general student that had to, just apply to even an Ivy school or anywhere have to deal with? So, Hannah, why don't we start with you? Like, what are some things about the process that stood out to you?
Right. I'm going to talk about the medical process. Not that it was something that was supposed to be flagged or anything, but I was worried that I would get disqualified for something, even though I'm completely healthy. I've known people to go to the process completely healthy and get flagged for something and be disqualified for their appointment. So that was something I was worried about.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting. So the medical process, they're doing like an intense medical screen just to make sure that you qualify. That's
right.
basically what I'm hearing, right? So,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, Antonio, let's throw it over to you. More about that medical process, but I hear all sorts of stories about the rigorous fitness tests that you have to do to even apply. So, what was that like?
Yes, sir. So to go to an academy, you have to do the Candidate Fitness Assessment, or CFA, and it consists of a mile run, max push-ups, max pull-ups, max sit-ups in a minute, as well as a shuttle run, and then, oddly enough, a basketball throw.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think that's all about?
I guess probably shoulder strength and power projection, probably
Yeah.
to simulate throwing a grenade or something like that.
Yeah. So is that a little intimidating? I mean, especially since you're you're trying to compare yourself to other people that are other cadets applying, right? Like, do you ever think, oh, maybe I'm not athletic enough or something? I don't know if that's ever crossed your mind. And you all seem very athletic. I know Hannah's involved in the sport for sure, but was that something that was a little intimidating or not really?
The way I looked at it was, if I was training for something, if I was practicing my push-ups or my run or the basketball throw, I'd always think of how can I get more reps in than the next guy?
Oh, okay.
How can I get ahead of my peers?
Yeah.
And make myself competitive.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. I tend to have this mindset sometimes, and sometimes I have the opposite mindset. But there is this thing that stands out for me, especially when you're doing, for me, it's like home improvement projects. I don't know anything about plumbing or electrical or any of that, right? I read books and do stuff on paper, but there is this theory, this thought process for me of if someone else can do it, I think I can do it too. It's like that. And then sometimes I get too far in and I realize I'm not good enough to do it and I have to call someone to help me out. But, I feel like that could be kind of the same. If these other people are going through the same thing. So very interesting. So David, what about you? What about the process that stands out for you?
You have to receive a nomination from either someone from the House of Representatives or the Senate. I think, didn't we all get it from
Daniel Webster?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
So you had to kind of put together some essays, go interview in front of a board. We all had to put on suit and ties, go into an office. So that was a little bit intimidating, but it was definitely a unique part of the application.
Well, and certainly that's different than a student applying even to Harvard. I don't think you're going to have to go in front of a committee to get into Harvard. I mean, it's all an evaluation on paper and what you've done. So Talk a little bit more. Any of the three of you, talk a little bit more about that. Was that really intimidating, and what were some of the questions they asked you? That's very interesting to me.
Sure, I'll take this one. So some of the questions they asked were kind of the scenario 4 years after. So let's say they give you the good scenario if you get into, let's say, West Point, and you're in the Army and you're a 22-year-old infantry officer, and they kind of give you some harder scenarios on what you would do and kind of your character, if you would take responsibility for your actions, if you lead by example, kind of how important your personal character is to you.
Okay.
And they kind of harp on that.
Yeah. No, I love that, right? I mean, the time it takes to do that is hard, but I feel like, and part of the reason we do these podcasts is so we can get information out to our students and anybody else at other schools about, it's a daunting process of going to college, right? And we joke about this all the time, right? I even sent a text to Miss Maroth last night. They had a college thing in the auditorium, and parents sometimes, especially in Florida, like, we went to UF, so we want our kids to go there. Go Gators, or FSU. But, I joked about it. The 1,000 SAT scores we got when we were going to college wouldn't get us into the same school as it does now, right? So it's, and so you say, well, how am I going to differentiate myself? Like, parents will ask all the time, like, how do I get my kid into UF? I had a parent texting me this morning, not a parent of West Orange, but one of my daughter's friend's parents, and wanted to know, hey, the question was, she's taking ASL, American Sign Language. Is that going to work for a foreign language at the college level? And everyone's trying to figure out how to get into the college they want. And like, the problem is, how do you convince someone on paper that you have good character, that you're going to be a hard worker? You can do that some through your performance, but I don't know, there's a lot to a personal interview. So I think that's really cool that they do that. Obviously it shows how elite you guys have to be to get into these academies, because they're doing an interview. It's not just somebody on paper. Not that you can't be great on paper. I certainly don't want to say that, but I don't know, being able to do it in person is a little different, And I've mentioned this before, but I think there's 3 aspects to a job, right? Getting the job, being able to do the job, and then what's after the job, And I think you guys you have to get the job, and there's a lot to that. So it's a pretty cool part of the process. So, well, let me throw it over to the next question. I'm very curious about the 3 of you, but I'm sure a lot of people that would watch this were curious. Why would you want to do this? What made you, and I'd love to hear from all 3 of you, what made you want to go to the Service Academy? So let's start with you, Dave.
Sure. I think I was introduced pretty late to the Air Force Academy. I joined ROTC my junior year, and I was from the cadet we had last year who went to Air Force Academy. I heard about it from him. His name is Eli Lopez. And then over the summer, I did a flight training program where my roommate was actually actively attending USAFA. So just hearing stories from him kind of made me fall in love with USAFA. Did a lot of research into it. And it was very appealing just because of the difficulties associated with the service academies that kind of force you to develop your character, develop your mindset, just more than any other college necessarily would. Yeah, there's a unique challenge that comes with the academy.
Yeah, that's cool. Hannah, what about you?
Right. So unlike David, he was exposed very late, but I was fortunate enough to have a brother who went to the Naval Academy.
Nice.
So every time I went there, all of his buddies, even him, I got to see them transform into this leader in front of me, right? They were all hardworking, all very smart, all very bright, had a bright future. And I decided that's where I wanted to be, and that was the type of person I wanted to be. So that's why I decided on Academy.
Cool.
For me, it kind of started when I was younger. My grandfather was in World War II, and my brother's in the Army, and I knew I wanted to serve my country, and I wanted to, I used to kind of romanticize it when I was younger, and I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the soldier, the kind of the hero. And as I got older and I got a little bit more realistic, learning about different opportunities, I knew I wanted to go to college, and found out about West Point and all the great leaders that came from there, and the caliber of officer that comes from there. And I was completely drawn toward it. No one else in my family has kind of been to college or
Wow.
it's kind of the traditional route. And I knew I wanted to be the one to kind of turn the tide, to set the pace for the next generations of my family. I was kind of just, I was just hungry for more, and that's what led me to West Point.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool to hear. By the way, it is a school day, so people watching this, yeah, this is a school day, so my phone just rang. The radio went off. I'm sorry. I usually try to turn those down, but I was negligent in my duties today. So, yeah, the interesting thing, and, I've talked a little bit about my own personal story. I went to law school in my 30s, and I was doing school stuff, running schools and things like that, and people would say, well, how are you doing all that? And there's sacrifices that need to be made. And my joke, but it's actually true, is I just stopped watching TV. So anytime you would watch TV, I would be reading, I would be studying, and like there's sacrifices that have to be made. And so kind of segueing into that, and this is for any of you, but like clearly you're going to sacrifice a traditional college experience for this. Not that it's any worse or, it's just different, right? I know that I've been on the campus at the Air Force Academy. I haven't been on any of the other three. I went to a football game there once when I was like in college, it was fun, but it's different. It's just different, it's just not the same. And I don't think the same is better, me personally, but a lot of, like if you meet the, a major, I'll use education because I'm in education. If you meet the education majors that are seniors in college, they're going to be acting different than the pre-med majors that are seniors in college, right? They're focused. They're trying to get all A's. They're getting ready for the MCAT. They're doing all these things. But it is a sacrifice, right? So what are your thoughts on sacrificing that traditional college experience? And again, sacrifice is such a terrible word because, I would much rather study law than watch TV, and that's what I chose, right? And I don't think it's a sacrifice. I think it's a good decision. I think your 3 decisions are good decisions, obviously to serve our country, but I think the stuff you're going to learn there and just the opportunities you're going to have are going to be life-changing. You're set. You make it, you're set, right? So, but what are your thoughts on? I mean, it's probably hard to not go to have a traditional college experience. So, what are your thoughts on kind of skipping that? You ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to kind of think through exactly what the trade-off you're making is when you talk about not having the traditional college experience. Like the things that you're sacrificing are normally like going to parties, sometimes like a lot of drinking is involved. Sure. Service academies are pretty small in comparison to like a school like UF, so you're at a smaller school. But every time I contemplate it, I always think that the trade-offs of going to the service academy is well worth anything you might miss out at a traditional college.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. But I just, some people would, want a more traditional route. So I couldn't agree more. I have a lot of respect for you for that too. So, Hannah, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I completely agree with him. Right. I don't find the appeal of parties or drinking that much. So losing that to the academy was a no-brainer. I was totally good with it. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that.
Yeah.
I know what I want to do, and that's the best avenue for me to go. So I'm all in with it.
It's funny because I hate to kind of talk about my own story sometimes because I don't want it to seem judgmental, but I was just someone that never drank alcohol. I've never drank in my life. I know, I don't know if you guys ever listen to stand-up comedy, but Jim Gaffigan has this bit where people say, people always want to know, you don't drink alcohol, why? They don't ever ask that about mayonnaise, you don't like mayonnaise, why? It's that whole bit. And and again, it's no judgment. If people do it, that's great. It has nothing to do with me. That's something I chose not to do. For me, one of the reasons I chose that was because I was an athlete and I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And I knew I needed every advantage, so I wasn't missing any time. So it wasn't so much about drinking as much about the time that I would be doing that. So when other people, as you say, were partying or whatever they were doing at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night when they were in college, I was in the gym because I wanted to be good. And I wasn't good, so I got better, And I think that's part of it. But, it is something to ponder, You don't want to look back and have regrets. And I certainly would never guess that would be that case with the 3 of you because this is an amazing choice and it's awesome that you guys got in. So I really just have one more question. Where do you guys see yourself down the road? I mean, you're going to go to the Service Academy and you're going to be there for 4 to 5 years, and then what? Like where do you guys see yourself as far as your careers or what you're going to do? I think some people have the misconception that if you're going to the Service Academy, you're going to be a career soldier and that's what you're doing. They're going to think you're going to be wearing that for the rest of your lives, and that's clearly not the truth, right? So where are you in 10 years? And Hannah, let's start with you this time.
All right. So I plan to do the 4 years of the academy. During my junior year and senior year, I'll be studying for the MCAT because I plan to go into medical school.
Nice.
Right now, I'm looking into going to pediatrics, but I've been told to keep my eyes open because pediatrics is the only thing I've been exposed to so far. So that's what I'm looking at. But
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. David?
Yeah, so my plan as of now, once I graduate from the Air Force Academy, is either I'm right now between space operations and commissioning as a Space Force officer, or potentially joining Air Force Special Operations Command as a Special Tactics officer or Tactical Air Control Party, which is basically, in the research that I've done, found that really appealing because it kind of combines the technical know-how that the Air Force brings really well with the robustness you need to be a soldier. So that's my plan. Stick it out for at least 10 years and then either go into the private sector or keep going for the full 20.
Well, and it's interesting to hear you say that because you got one of you saying, I'm going to get in and then do my service, but then go maybe try to practice medicine, and you're saying I kind of want to make it's more of the Air Force type service. You know, it's cool. It's awesome to you guys have thought through it. But also, you know, I'm sure your paths are going to be a little different than most of ours. But you know, if you asked all your teachers, how many times did you change majors? It'd probably average about 2 or 3. You know, so you know, if you guys change your mind, it's not the end of the world. But it's cool to get you started. So, Antonio, what about you?
It's funny you mentioned the career soldier thing earlier. As far as right now, that's what I plan to do.
Cool.
Right, I want to make it to the top. I want to, one day even be a general. Right, I want to I really want to make an impact and kind of leave a legacy. I really want to build something. I want to commission as an infantry officer when I get out of West Point. I want to eventually become a Green Beret. Once I'm around a captain is when you're allowed to be an officer for that. And it's just the idea of a challenging life being kind of fruitful and worthwhile is very appealing to me. And I want to just live a life, to me, that kind of honors God, and because that's important to me personally, right? And I want to be that leader. I want to be that example to my juniors or my soldiers that I'm going to be in charge of, because as an officer, I have to make sure that I'm squared away and I know what I'm doing, I'm competent, and I'm great at my job, to make sure that they have someone to look up to, but also someone they can kind of trust. And after the military, I want to go into politics and probably kind of go into that world. But
That's awesome.
We'll see where that takes me.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. It's really cool hearing your stories. Actually, I'm going to give you guys a round of applause. You can't hear it if you don't. There's always like sound effects that we're doing. So, no, that's really cool. Well, I'm so happy to talk to you guys. Thanks for giving me your time today. We try to keep these around 20 minutes. We're right around there right now. But do you guys have any parting thoughts? So let's do one more, right? We got a couple minutes. So what would your advice be to someone who's either wants to be in the get into a military academy, or who is too scared to apply because they think it's going to be too hard? What would be your advice to any of those situations? Did any of you guys have anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, I would say a big factor is keep your grades up, stay physically fit if you're looking to go into the military. You'd be amazed just how many doors that opens up. Always be willing to take risks, go through things that you're unsure about, and if you do go into the military or into a service academy, it is going to be very difficult, but the way that it molds you into a better person it's worth going through a little bit of suffering.
Yeah, I would agree. Anybody else?
I would say know your reason why you're going. That's a big thing. It'll help you get in, number one, and stick it through the whole time at the academy. So
Yeah.
And another thing I would say is just consider the future, right? If you don't want to look back in maybe 20 or 30 years and see somebody and say, well, I could have been that, I might have been able to do that, but I decided to go somewhere else. And I really think that you should, right, know your why, be well-rounded, be the student athlete who has leadership positions and have all of that going for you.
Yeah.
But think about, because as soon as you're done with the academy, right, no matter what you have planned after, you have a commitment to serve, and you are going to be a leader of people, of men and women who have lives and families, and just to consider the gravity of that just
Yeah.
how important it is to really make sure that you're good up here and good in there to be a good leader for these people.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and they always say if things were easy, everyone would do it, right? I mean, not everyone can do what you guys are about to do, you know. And I would say, especially when I was 18, I don't think I could have done it. You know, it's just your discipline, your commitment to being who you are is high, and that is very awesome and very valuable. I'm so excited to hear about it. So come back and tell us and see how things are going. Thanks for your time, guys, and appreciate you guys. Go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
Warriors.